Welcome back. I am here with Sean Swarner, who has done the 7 summits, the Explorers Grand Slam, meaning he's done North Pole, South Pole. He's also done the World Marathon Challenge and done 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. And by the way, he's a 2-time cancer survivor who was given so much treatment he lost a lung. So he's done all of that with 1 lung. Yes, 1 lung. So you breathed a lot of life into us despite the fact you only have 1 lung in the first 2 segments, and talked about how to get through adversity and how to push through to achieve big things by having a purpose, a goal bigger than yourself. But you shared with me that sometimes you do these things and you push and you push and you push and you have this great purpose, but sometimes the result isn't always what you expect.
You know, it's interesting, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm a huge believer in vivid visualization. You know, it works. When I was training for Everest, I visualized myself on the summit. You know, and I visualized myself thousands of times, taking the last few steps, hearing the styrofoam sound of the snow crunching under my feet, smelling the ozone, feeling the sun's radiation on my face. Did the same thing when I was battling my cancers. I actually was inside my body destroying the cancer cells. And I visualized myself swimming the 50-meter breaststroke. Going for the North Pole, I visualized myself reaching the North Pole, completing the Explorers Grand Slam, again, thousands of times. I knew exactly what it was going to look like. What I didn't picture and what I didn't expect was when I reached the pole, you know, I was elated. I mean, actually, I proposed to my wife, my now wife at the North Pole, too.
We're going to get to that story because it's hysterical.
Okay. Reached the North Pole, and I was elated. You know, the helicopter took me back, but I was so focused on the goal, so focused on the destination, looking back at the 7 summits, even Everest to a point, and the trip to the North Pole, South Pole. I was so focused on the goal, the end result, that when I got there and I came home, the first thought I had was, now what do I do? What's next? And because I was chasing certain things without enjoying the journey, I fell into a depression. You know, for a month or so, I was lost. I wasn't myself. I was just constantly looking for something else to fulfill what void I had in me because I didn't have another goal. And it hurt. You know, it really hurt. And then I realized that I had to start focusing on the journey. I had to start focusing on enjoying the process. Because if you're not enjoying the process, what's the point? You reach a goal, you're going to try to find another goal. And I realized that I was constantly chasing these false summits as opposed to the real summit. Like, why do I want that? You know, say my goal is to buy this awesome mug, right? And I get it. Well, why do I want it? Is it because it represents personal growth? Is it because it represents success? And I had always been chasing the thing, the shiny object syndrome. And every time I got it, not anymore, I realized it was a false summit. It never gave me that hope. That hope and that joy and that happiness, that's an inside job.
So this is a big, well, in fairness, you were 13 and you were fighting for your life. You did have a goal that was kind of important.
Well, yeah.
If you don't reach that one, there are no more. Like that,
Right.
There is one summit. But I think about the visualization. My dad was a professional baseball player, and I can remember somebody asking him if he was nervous, or his first game he pitched, he did great, and I was like, were you nervous? And he said, I wasn't nervous because I'd already done it 1,000,000 times in my head.
Absolutely.
So he had attended a seminar that I was doing visualization, and he said, it's funny, I tried teaching this to you in high school and you wanted no part of it. Of course, I was a teenager and he was my father, so there was nothing he could say. But that visualization, but then he was a professional athlete and he got hurt, and all of a sudden there was a loss of identity. And then it was the same thing with a lot of the people that I coach or I work with who sell businesses. You sell your business, you grow this big company, you get to a certain place, and then all of a sudden there's an identity loss because I'm no longer the athlete, the CEO, the leader. Even your email address is about identity. right? So,
Very true.
So your website, Cancer Climber, right? Is
Yeah,
this
cancerclimber.org or SeanSwarner.com.
Right. So like it is your identity. So I get that it's really common. So for people here, whether you got the degree, people who go through school and they get the job and then they're not happy, or this isn't just for people who survived cancer or did the Explorers Grand Slam. This is for, you became a dentist, you became a doctor, you became a lawyer, you got the job, you got the promotion, you got the family, you've got the house, you've got something, and then you realize you're not happy with what you have, but maybe you feel stuck because you put so much time into it. What did you do? Like, what happened when you got to that place and you got home from the Grand Slam and went to Denny's and really tied it all in? When you did that, and then where was the shift? What did you do? What did you realize? What was the big change that from this depression, this loss of identity? What happened?
It's interesting because when I did come back and I slowly started working myself out of that depression, I started thinking about the cancer, because it's so relatable and it's such a good metaphor. Because every night when I went to bed, I was terrified. During my second cancer, 14 days to live, I was terrified to close my eyes at night because I didn't know if I was going to wake up the next day. Now imagine doing that for a year and a half, not knowing if you're going to wake up the next day. So I learned, first of all, to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. And then when the doctor said, "Hey, Sean, you're in remission, go live your life," my parents were happy. My family was happy. My brother, my mom, my dad, I mentioned them, my parents, for everybody I knew was freaking ecstatic. They were like, "Oh my God, Sean's in remission, that's fantastic." My first thought was, now what do I do? Because that was my identity for such a long time. Same thing reaching the North Pole, completing the Explorers Grand Slam. Now what do I do? So I actually put together what I call the Big Hill Challenge. It's pretty cool, where because I couldn't find anything that was going to help me online, I created it myself. And I created it initially for cancer patients, going from that transition from a patient to a survivor, back into real life. But then I realized it's great for military, going back into real life. It's great for anybody who's going through transition at any moment or any time in their lives. And it helps people utilize their own personal core values to get more from themselves and more from life. And for the longest time, coming back after the North Pole, I didn't have that. Like, okay, well, what am I going to do with my life? So I created this to help myself, and I realized that it helped me so much, I wanted to give it to other people. And by going back to giving and helping others, that became my purpose. There's no end goal now. It's like the ultimate end goal, well, not goal, but the ultimate end destination for everybody is death. I don't see anybody rushing there.
Right.
So along your path and along my path, along the journey that I'm living now, I want to give as much as I can. I've never seen a U-Haul in a funeral procession. I don't need stuff. I want to give and help other people and change the world.
So you got to this place where, much like with your cancer, when you survived, you wanted to give other people hope. When you hike, and you climb, you bring people with you and you bring people on the journey so they're excited about the moment and they follow you and they say, I can tell you all the people that I shared it with all said, "That is so cool." And they said, "Oh, thank you for doing that." I was like, I only gave the names. Like, he's the one who climbed. Like, this is a...
But they're the ones who are inspiring us both.
Right. And so there's a moment, just that moment of being able to give back. So tell us more about this, about the challenge, because I actually reached out to you after we met and told you that I was struggling with my son who had gone to college, it didn't work, joined the Army, got hurt in boot camp and got sent home. So we got the joy and the lovely part of being there for all of boot camp, but not actually being deployed and being sent home, and was trying to find something. And then read your book, watched your movie. I can probably say now he's working at Lake of the Woods at a luxury fishing resort up in northern, it's technically Canada, but somehow it's part of the United States. I don't know why. But it's some screw up from the Treaty of Paris, actually. But he's up there doing something in nature and loving it. But it was this hope of, I can do something different. So talk about this, because we talked about the challenge you gave him. Talk a little bit more about this for people in transition. What is the Big Hill Challenge?
Well, It basically, it's a 3-week online challenge. You don't have to hike any mountains. There's nothing physical involved at all. All the work is the work that you do inside. So a 3-week online, self-motivated, self-guided. You'll get sick and tired of seeing this face on your computer screen or your phone because there are tons of videos, but it takes 5 minutes to 15 minutes a day. And it literally changes your life. Thebighillchallenge.com. But
Thebighillchallenge.com.
Yeah, but the biggest concept is you are never going to find anything out here to satisfy what you need inside. So to quote Michael Jackson, what is it? If you want to make a change, start with the man in the mirror or something like that. Literally, it's a deep, hard look into the mirror, like I did when I was battling my first cancer. I mentioned it earlier. I looked in the mirror. I didn't even recognize who was looking back at me. So many people are terrified to do that deep work because of the answers they're going to find. And because they might look inside themselves and realize that they're not really happy or proud of who they are. This can make that shift and that transition. Just based on a 1-degree difference, 15 miles away, you're a completely different person. But you're happier. You're enjoying life more. There's more joy. There's more life to who you are as a human being. And the only person who can do that is yourself.
Yeah, so when we come back after the break, we're going to talk more about next steps for all of you. So if you've worked really hard, if you've either overcome a lot of adversity, you're facing a lot of adversity, or you've done a lot only to get somewhere and realize this isn't it, it's not enough, then there's one more mountain to climb, and it's a good one. And so we have no one better to guide us than Sean Swarner, so we'll catch you after the break.